For as long as she could remember, Sarah had lived with a sense of emptiness that she couldn't quite explain. She had a loving family, wonderful friends, and a life most would consider happy. But there was always something missing, an ache in her heart that never seemed to go away. As a child, she would often dream of a little boy, someone she felt inexplicably connected to. He was always just out of reach, slipping away as soon as she opened her eyes. When she asked her parents about it, they would smile sadly and change the subject. It wasn't until she was a teenager that Sarah learned the truth. At a family gathering, after everyone had a bit too much to drink, her aunt let something slip, a quiet, devastating confession. "You know," her aunt said, her voice low and laced with guilt, "you were supposed to have a brother." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. She stared at her aunt in confusion. "A brother? What are you talking about?" Her aunt's face turned pale as she realized what she'd said, but the damage was already done. The next day, Sarah confronted her parents, and after hours of hesitation and evasion, they finally told her the truth. "You did have a brother," her mother said, tears streaming down her face. He died at birth. We didn't want you to grow up with that sadness, so we never told you." The weight of the revelation crashed down on Sarah like a tidal wave. All these years, she had felt that connection, that missing piece, and now she knew why. But something didn't sit right with her. As devastated as she was by the news, there was a nagging feeling in her gut, a feeling that there was more to the story. Years passed, but Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. She often wondered about her brother, the life he never got to live, and what could have been if things had been different. Her parents never spoke of him again, and she never pushed them on it, fearing it would reopen old wounds. But the dreams continued. The little boy in her dreams wasn't a baby. He was always a few years younger than Sarah, with dark hair and a mischievous smile. And every time she dreamed of him, she felt an overwhelming sense of love and protection, as though he were still out there, waiting for her. It wasn't until Sarah was in her mid-20s that she decided she needed to know the full truth. Her parents were getting older, and she feared that if she didn't ask now, she might never get the answers she desperately sought. So, one rainy afternoon, she sat her mother down and demanded to know everything. Her mother sighed, her face etched with the weight of years of secrets. "We didn't want you to know," she began, her voice trembling. "But I see now that you deserve the truth." And so, her mother told her the real story, a story that shattered Sarah's heart into a million pieces. Her brother hadn't died at birth. He had been born alive and healthy, but shortly after his birth, something had gone terribly wrong. The hospital where he was born had made a grave mistake. They had switched babies. Sarah's brother had been taken and given to another family, while a stillborn baby was brought to her parents. It was an accident, a horrible, unimaginable accident, but by the time the hospital realized the mistake, it was too late. Her brother had been adopted by another couple, and her parents, devastated by the loss, were told that they could never get him back. The legalities were complicated, and the truth was buried to protect everyone involved. Her parents were heartbroken, but they were told it was best for everyone to move on. The pain of knowing their child was alive, growing up with another family, was unbearable, so they chose to tell Sarah that her brother had died at birth, hoping to spare her from the agony they had lived with for decades. Sarah was stunned. The brother she had mourned for years, the one she had dreamed of her entire life, was alive. Somewhere out there, he existed. And now that she knew the truth, she was determined to find him. The search was long and difficult. Sarah spent years tracking down leads, scouring hospital records, hiring private investigators, and following every whisper of information she could find. There were moments when she wanted to give up, moments when the trail went cold, and she wondered if she was chasing a ghost. But deep down, she knew she had to keep going. She had to find him. And then, one day, after nearly a decade of searching, she did. His name was Michael. He had grown up just a few towns over from where Sarah had spent her childhood, completely unaware that he had been switched at birth. He had lived a good life with his adoptive family, but like Sarah, he had always felt that something was missing. When Sarah reached out to him, he was initially hesitant, But after seeing the undeniable evidence, the hospital records, the DNA tests, the photos, he agreed to meet her. When they finally stood face to face, it was like looking into a mirror. Michael had the same dark hair and mischievous smile that Sarah had seen in her dreams for so many years. And in that moment, all the pain, all the confusion, all the heartache melted away. They had found each other after all these years. As they sat down to talk, Michael revealed something that took Sarah's breath away. "I've been looking for you, too," he said quietly. "I didn't know about the switch, but I always felt like I had another family out there. I didn't know who or why, but I've been searching for as long as I can remember." Together, they pieced together the fragments of their lives, uncovering the web of lies and betrayal that had kept them apart for so long. It wasn't easy. There were still wounds that would take time to heal and questions that might never be fully answered. But in finding each other, they found a piece of themselves they had always been missing. Sarah and Michael's reunion was bittersweet, but it was also a new beginning. They had been separated for so long, kept apart by forces beyond their control. But now they had each other, and in that, they found hope. Because sometimes, even the darkest secrets can lead to the most beautiful truths.